Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Masterfully Integrated. This week, we're working on part 3 of going over the book Indistractable with the author is Nir Eyal. And not just going over the book, but reviewing our experiment. We've been the guinea pigs working through the methods in Indistractable and applying them to ourselves just to see how it's going. So
today's part four and five. Sorry, 4 and 5.
part 4 and 5 of the
Yeah,
book.
we did 3 last week.
Yep, that's right. And so are we all connected everywhere?
Yep, I'm just waiting for it to load to make sure we're live. Let me just, looks like, all right, we're good. We're live, so we're good to go.
Okay, awesome. And I apologize if there's an echo. I'm coming at you from Tucson, Arizona this time in the hotel, so it's a little different.
No, you sound good. And if anyone's watching, give a comment, let us know you're there. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and we'll be sure to answer them. If you've gotten the book, let us know. If you haven't gotten the book yet, we highly recommend it. I will put a link to the book in the comments once we're done.
Yeah, and if you're following it, for sure, let us know how it's going for you and what's working and not, or just how it's going as you're getting it working. And that's what I was going to start with was, how's it going so far, Amelie? We've been working on this a couple weeks now.
Yeah, so far so good. Let me just
That's okay. I'll just roll in with, for me, it's like it's like I think the methods are effective. The biggest the biggest challenge for me has been the habit changing part of it. It's like I'm in order to focus, it's remove all those distractions. But I had to set up a couple new ones to remind me of the new routine that I'm in order to get into it.
Yeah, I feel like the calendar for me is like a work in progress. So it's like I set it up and then try it out and see how that goes. And then I'm like, why? I'm actually not going to do this at this time, so I'm going to have to move it. So it's like being realistic about when I'm actually going to do things. Like I put something on the calendar, like I was gonna what did I put? I can't remember now, but I put something like in late afternoon, and then I was like, I don't know why I put this here because I'm not actually going to do it at this time. So I need to be a little more realistic about my schedule. But I find that I didn't used to block off and schedule my free time after my day was over, but I started doing that, and I found it to be really helpful. And I didn't get caught up in things as much. Like I didn't get caught up watching TV for too long because I'm like, okay, I just have this time, and then after that, I have to do this, and so I actually really like it. And then also like giving myself grace if I don't follow the schedule and I decide to watch TV versus doing whatever doing what I do after that, or and so the notifications have been super helpful. Like turning those off on my phone, not seeing that little red circle with the messages, not getting the pop-ups on my computer. Or on my phone. I even turned off the notifications from Facebook. So when the app, I have to scroll 3 pages to get to it, and I can't see the red circle. So I don't even know that it's there. I don't even, and I only look at it when it's my time to look at social media. And so I've found that to be really helpful. Anyway, so that's kind of my takeaway from it.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've noticed that I really didn't expect to at all was, you and I as business partners, we're all up in each other's business, and we have our personal schedules where we can see each other's along with our business activities. And that I didn't really, we've gotten together and rearranged our calendars several times before implementing this, but I didn't realize how much it was a distraction. It was a stressor when my calendar wasn't matching what I was doing. And it's gotten more and more aligned. It's like now I was stressing out when I was opening up my calendar app, and now I notice it now that that's gone. I didn't realize that was going on before.
Yeah. And I definitely feel like it's all a work in progress, right? It's all figuring out what works best, making sure that everything that you want to give attention to gets the attention. There's time blocked off for it. Like I think that's the most important thing. And that whenever you're doing that thing that you block the time off for, just do that thing. Don't do other things, right? Like there are some things that you can do at the same time. Like you can listen to an audiobook and clean the house, right? Like you can listen to an audiobook and do laundry, or, you know, but you can't like write a blog and do laundry. Like just write the blog and then do laundry, right? Like keep them separate. And I think that's really important too. It's too easy for us to try to like multitask and do a bunch of things at one time, and it's just not very productive.
Yeah. And I think some people feel like it may be restrictive or creative. And, you know, it's like for me that designating the time blocks, the amount of time, and then that allows me to be flexible with myself. So like right now, I'm on the road and I'm supporting a competition that's my husband is in, but the time blocking on the calendar represents how much time I need to do these things and the time I'm going to focus on them, and I can move them around the day so I'm still knocking out what needs to get done. I can stay super focused while I'm doing it, and I can set it down and walk away and do this other thing that I'm doing without stressing out about what, oh my gosh, I should be doing this other thing. It's like, nope, I got time blocked out for that. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it works.
So let's talk about, so the first section we're going to talk about is the workplace one.
So the parts 5 and 6 in the book that we're going over this time around. Part 5 is about making your workplace indistractable, and part 6 is about kids and how to raise indistractable children, which, you know, we generally are talking about business things, but I think there's a lot of ways it ties into our business life, and also it actually ties into making us better leaders and managers. It's like if you can't handle children, you really can't handle people, and a lot of the things are much the same, I think.
I found it to be super interesting. You know, just to preference this by saying that I don't have children, and neither Janine or I are psychologists. We are just reading and explaining what we took away from the book, just to clear that up. But Janine does have kids, so she has experience. I personally don't have kids, but I felt like reading it was so interesting, just the different points that he brought up, and I'm excited to talk about it. But we can talk about the workplace first.
Yeah, and what I meant by, you know, if you can't handle kids, like Amelie, you don't have them, but you handle them so well. It's like every time I've seen you interact with children, it's like you're attentive, you're focused. You can just see them light up and respond to you. You know, it's a beautiful thing. And so it doesn't, you don't have to have kids to be able to handle kids. It's just, it's really just how you deal with people. They're just smaller. No, don't tell a pediatrician I said children are adults. They'll freak out. But and I'm looking aside here. I have a few notes here on this. So in part 5 for the workplace being indistractable. So we're going to go through this part a little quickly, especially because right now it's like there aren't too many people in a physical workplace, but we'll refer to some of the examples. Distraction. So in part 1 of the book, we talk about distraction is arising from some kind of pain or need, some kind of psychological discomfort. And so the workplace one is talking about what is this psychological discomfort going on in the workplace. And I thought it was really interesting that these guys were doing some research in Google on their teams about what makes a good team. You know, it's like versus a team where they're distracted and they're not really productive and they're not getting things done. And the researchers came in with a bias. They were convinced it was going to be, oh, they have good people, and they didn't define what good people meant. But to them, they found that it really doesn't matter. That it wasn't who the people were, but it was more important the environment they were in and how they worked amongst themselves. And really that the environment they're in had to do with how they worked amongst themselves. So it had to do with their communication, if they appreciated and valued each other, much more than any kind of, you know, particular skill set or accolades or resume or anything like that. And they were shocked to find that. What did you think about that finding?
Yeah, so I thought it was really interesting. You know, he says that dysfunctional work culture is the real culprit, and that depression is high. Just so you know, if I look to the over here, it's because I have my book open where I've highlighted and made notes and stuff. But depression is high in companies where there's high expectations but low control of outcomes, of changes, things like that. So there's these super high expectations to get the job done, be fantastic, say yes, do all the things, but they have no control over how they do things, the choices they can make, the outcomes. And so, and ultimately that's a dysfunctional way of working. And so they were doing a whole thing about depression in the workplace, and that technology isn't the root of the problem. It's a distraction from the work that causes the pain of the depression, right? Like that's ultimately what's going on there. And I just thought that was really fascinating, because in all of our workplaces, even if you're at home, technology is such a big part of it, and it's useful and can be effective. But when it's used in the right way, when it becomes a distraction, it ultimately isn't an effective thing. It's a distraction from something that's painful for the person, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And especially making that, well, first I want to go to the first part where it's like we've talked in the past about delegating the authority along with the responsibility for a task, and that's control, basically giving them the control over the outcome. And then the other part, the pain leading, is like them using the tech isn't the problem. It's like tech overuse is a symptom of a dysfunctional company culture. And we'll get into it. This is where we thought the kid part was really interesting, but instituting more rules and stuff around that can actually exacerbate the problem. And we'll get into that a little bit more later.
Yeah.
But it's a symptom, not the underlying cause.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the things he said here is that lack of control over their schedules and the expectations that they would be constantly connected were a major reason why people left this particular firm, BCG, that they did a study with. They didn't have control. They felt like their life was being controlled. They couldn't shut down. They couldn't walk away. They couldn't end the day without feeling like they needed to always be available. And that's just not a way that people can live. And so if you're having high turnover rate, that's definitely something that you need to examine. What are your expectations of your employees? Are they unreasonable? Is it controlling all of their time and they have zero control over their time? Like that's a miserable place to be. And I just, it's
yeah, and
not going to be
especially
successful.
if you're in a company with multiple management layers, it's like there's, just because of the hierarchy, there are certain preconceptions about what's going on with people. But I would always recommend is like take a good look at your managers, because so often people are elevated to a level of management without it's not necessarily the right role for them. Right. And the manager who's complaining or setting all the extra rules and really struggling with this kind of thing, it's like the manager may actually be the one who needs help with how to deal with it, because that's often that they need more help with their management skills. But what that does with the people, so how you overuse the technology becomes that symptom of the dysfunctional company, is they have that feeling of lack of control, but checking their email and doing a lot of routine little tasks like that, which become distractions from the actual work they want to do. The reason they're doing that is that they have control over that. They're checking their email. They can respond to it and check a little box, or whatever it is, the little tech-related distractions that they're doing. They're trying to regain that sense of control over it.
Yeah, and one of the solutions, the main solution that he discusses, is having open discussions with employees about changes that they'd like to see. They talked about Slack, the company Slack, and how they have open, they have channels where people can give feedback, and they admitted that some of them can be uncomfortable, where the employees actually bring to light issues that are happening and causing problems for the employees, and it's open, an open discussion. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of, I don't know if you've listened to Brene Brown or read any of her books, but she talks about vulnerability in the workplace, and that without vulnerability, you really can't have creativity. And if people aren't comfortable speaking their mind and saying if something isn't working, and ultimately the people on the front lines or the people that are doing the things are going to have the best advice on how to fix it, right? Because if you're 3 levels removed, you're really not the best person. I mean, you can give your insight, but if you're not the one doing it, you really can't you not can't, but most likely the person that's actually doing the job can give the best advice on how to fix it. So having open discussions, having and I almost said an all hands call. That's like what we call it in the Navy. Like having a group call with or meeting with all the employees and getting feedback from them, having a Slack channel where people can provide feedback and are comfortable and know that they're not going to, they're not going to get fallback from providing how they think things should be changed. I mean, ultimately you want the employees to stay, right? Unless you don't, then you should fire them. But if you do, then you want to make it the best for them possible, and so, the best place for them to get their job done and things like that. So the main thing to the solution is to have discussions with employees and managers and from top to bottom on the org chart.
Absolutely. And that's again where it really depends. The people leading those conversations, the leadership has to have buy-in. They have to be okay with it. They're the ones setting the example. It's like if they can't do it, the team's not going to do it. It's like, so you just have to dive in and do it.
I think there was one more. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add another part of that is for employees to understand how they fit into the bigger vision, right? Like where do they fit in? What role are they playing? And for the leadership to know what are the employees' dreams and wants and needs, and does that fit into the bigger mission and where the company's going? But this is with a clear view of how they work. How their work contributed to a larger vision, team members felt more empowered and able to affect the outcome of the projects. Like that gives them control, that gives them the power and the drive and the want to to do the best that they can.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you haven't been that person or worked with that person, but at least on movies or television, it's like you've seen someone who's just expressed that feeling of, man, I don't even know why I'm doing this. I don't even know what I'm doing here.
Yeah,
that's that lack of meaning.
That's gonna put a little drag on the project, I think.
Yeah, if you've ever had to wash lava rocks in the middle of the night so they're clean for an inspection the next day, it happened. But yeah, and it's important because we were talking about down for for small companies or even larger companies. It's like down to the janitor, right? It's like the janitors, like, dude, they're helping everyone focus on what they need to do because they don't have to do that chore. They're helping everything in the company be more efficient. Their job is important because somebody has to do that. And it's important that they as a human being are recognized and appreciated for the job they do. And not, just everyone in the company. Everything has a meaning. And if it doesn't serve a purpose for the company, then that's another whole nother issue that needs to be addressed, actually.
Yeah. So I think for the workplace, it's important to remember one, like time blocking from the schedule, but having everyone synced up so everyone knows the schedule, using a sign when you need to work uninterrupted. And so everyone knows when you're doing that, different implementing these things that are part of the hacks that he goes through, but implementing them at work. And it starts with the leadership doing it and respecting what the employees are doing, right? So if you're not always on, then the employees shouldn't always have to be on, right? Like that being on all the time culture, that's going to run people into the ground. And so both sides need to be respected. It's a two-way street. And so having open discussions, time blocking, taking the hacks and implementing them, and leading by example, doing it yourself, following the hacks, but also then allowing your employees to set those and then respect them. If closing time, I think Slack is the sign on the wall in Slack at the company says work hard and go home. And like they live by that. Like they specifically say in the book that they don't send messages after a certain time. It's late. They don't send messages. It's respectful. And so,
they don't send personal messages.
Oh, personal messages.
Yeah,
sorry.
And I just want to make a point of that because, like, for it's funny that Slack has that, right? Because they're probably one of the number one tech items blamed by other companies for distractions.
But they don't succumb to it.
but they manage it. It's like it is a tool, and you manage it. You don't let it manage you. But I was going to say, it's like they have the do not disturb feature. They consider personal messaging rude after hours and on
Yeah.
weekends. And I just wanted to throw a caveat in there. One of the example you used was partners where one was an early morning riser and one was a night owl. And so the team felt like they had this 24/7 stuff coming at them. And it's funny because I know it's like, okay, I'm one of those super, super early morning people. And when I'm working, it's like, as I'm working through stuff and there's stuff I need to put out there to the team, it's like, it's not efficient for me to work on this and then have to communicate later. So I'm still communicating in Slack, but I'm always, at least once a week when I'm communicating with the team, it's like I'm always refreshing them on it's like I'm just putting these things out there because that is my work time, and I don't want or expect any response until you are on your work time.
Right.
And then you just have this list of things when you're focused on your work. And so, but I try to make a point to just keep saying that because I know I work odd hours.
And we have two team members that are 2 hours different from me and an hour different from you. So, it's when we're working, they work at different times. Like I finish my day, then Janine finishes her day, and then those two team members finish theirs an hour after Janine's finishing. So, it's kind of a ripple effect, but ultimately,
we're bringing on a new one who's 6 or 7 hours off now.
Yeah, exactly.
But
so I think that's important, but ultimately it's communication, like letting them know, one, that you heard their message. So whenever I see a message, even if it I don't need to respond, I give it just a quick it's like this little check mark emoji, and I just do that just so that they know I saw it. I appreciate their message. Thank you for letting me know. I got it. And then if I have to respond, I will. And communicating the expectations, like they know the expectation is that when they get on, they send us a message, let us know what's going on for the day. If I have questions, I can ask them. But if not, then they're off to work, and we don't bother them. I mean, we don't talk to them in the middle of the workday until they're done. And unless they have a question or need help, we really don't hear from them until the end of the day. And expectations are set. There's communication. If someone's unhappy, we have a way for them to let us know so we can work on that. I think that's super important. Just being open and being humble enough to understand that just you might not be the perfect manager at the moment, but that doesn't mean you can't become it. You just need to listen to what the employees are saying.
Well, fundamentally, we're all just people, right? And recognizing that is super important, and that's that contributes to allowing people to express themselves from a vulnerable place, because you're a people just like they're a people. And how you respond. So that's rolling into the end of this part.
I was going to say, do you want to maybe let's touch on we can do the kids next week, because I just realized that we had a lot more to say about the workplace than I thought, but maybe we can touch on the kids next week. And this week we'll just, we'll wrap up here, just because it's a lot. And then if we throw in the kids, because I feel like the kids one, I just think is super interesting, and I'd like to spend some time talking about it. So if it's okay with you,
there's so much ties from the kids ones into leadership skills. It's I think that's super important. Super important, and also just a personal insight as to where some of these things are happening. So just a couple other quick points on the workplace. I just wanted one that they talked about in particular was having a predictable time off. And I just wanted to throw in about those weird times. It's like when we're talking about distractions and the psychological triggers and getting away from pain, it's like we had a team member who was, she's on fire and she's doing all this amazing stuff, and you could see her throwing out all this stuff on the weekend in preparation for the next week. But it turned out that actually she was super struggling with issues at home, and work was her escape from that pain. So be mindful that there may be something else going on, because you don't want somebody to burn out. And sometimes they might need a little help in areas that will help support them at work long term. And
definitely.
Make it okay. So let's see. So for the Indistractable workplace, we talked about Slack. fosters psychological safety. That's the vulnerability in a place for open discussions and concerns. And then again, the most important, having leaders who exemplify this. They can't just say, the worst thing you can do is say one thing and do
another.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's okay when you're making a change. When we make a change, we communicate it to our team, and we just, I know I do, and I know you do, Amelie. It's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then we do it, and then we slip a little, and we say, okay, guys, we slipped a little, but we're going to get back on it.
And they're used to me changing stuff, because I like to change. I'm like one of the people that rearrange their refrigerators regularly. So
cough, cough, click up, cough.
So they know, they're prepared. I'm like, hey guys, just so you know, I made some changes. If you have questions, let me know. But I usually make a video. I make a video to show them if I made it.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we pretty much took all the time going over the Indistractable workplace. So we'll talk about raising indistractable children next time, which has a lot of great advice on life skills.
Awesome. I thought it was so interesting. Yeah, really good. So if you watch the replay, give us a hashtag replay, put your comments, questions in the comments section. We will respond. We'll be back here next week at 11 a.m. Eastern on Friday. Get the book. I'll put the link to get the book. It's really interesting. He even has a little book club discussion questions. Maybe we'll bring up one of those next week or something. But he's got lots of tools on his website and stuff. I just think he's really fantastic. I think the book is great. So
use the book. Get the book. Use the book. Don't just read the book and check the reading list.
Exactly. But anyway, so we look forward to see you guys next week. Thank you for joining us today. Again, we put any comments or questions, and we'll be sure to answer them. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Bye.